My friends, it's a delight to be with you. Great to have you here, Rush Limbaugh. Executing assigned host duties flawlessly, zero mistakes, because I do the assigning. Telephone number if you want to be on the program is 800-282-2882, and the email address, lrushbo@eibnet.com. Okay, we're going to go back to the audio sound bites. Pope Francis and his speech before the joint session of Congress. Let me just ask a question. This is rooted, ladies and gentlemen, in our first caller. I've noticed that there is a process by which people go through when they support somebody, but they're not sure what the person they support is saying all the time, or maybe the person they support never has addressed certain things. The people that support them will always interpret what the person they support says as being what they like. I first saw it with Perot. I had people calling here telling me what Perot was going to do if he was elected and what he was saying, and he hadn't said any of it, and he wasn't going to do any of it. But people were so excited about Perot that they wanted him to do this. So what they wanted him to do is what they ended up hearing him say he was going to do. There's some of that with Trump. Now, we had our caller here. God bless him. This is not a criticism of the caller. This is an observation. He was trying to tell me, you didn't hear right, Rush. I mean, the Pope had plenty of conservative things in there. Now, I'm probably going to get a little trouble here. I'm used to that. But I don't have any. I don't need anybody analyzing this for me. I know exactly what this Pope is saying, and I know what he thinks. There isn't a whole lot of gray area for me here. And if you hear me asking somebody, what did he mean by that? I'm trying to get people to start thinking. Well, let's continue the exercise here. My only point here is that I don't go looking for phantom statements from people I support. I don't imagine phantom statements because I support them. If they do things that I don't like or don't agree with, my support can go. I mean, my support's not wedded to anybody at all times ever, depending. So I do not do this, and I don't imagine the people I support saying what I want them to say, and then try to explain to it. No, you didn't hear what he said was. I heard him, but when I didn't. So my point is, I don't have any doubt what the Pope said in any facet of his speech today. I know what he did. I know what he said. And if you have any doubts, just look at the reaction at the White House. That's pure and simple. Or anywhere in the Democrat Party. Aside from abortion, and the way they look at that is, he had to throw us a bone somewhere. That's the way they justify it. They're not going to throw him overboard because he took him to task on abortion. So they'll rationalize it some other way. But they're not going to pay any attention to it. Anyway, here we go. Where'd we stop? We have to soundbite number, we stopped at 3. No, we got to do 3. Yeah, we only got 2 of these things in the first hour. Anyway, here's the third bite. This is the Pope. Golden rule. Refugees. And I remember why. The second soundbite launched me on this whole notion of why these people think this place is so special, how it got this way, and
just assuming it always will be. Anyway, here's the next bite.
Our world is facing a refugee crisis of a magnitude not seen since the Second World War. This presents us with great challenges and many hard decisions. On this continent, too, thousands of persons are led to travel north in search of a better life. We need to avoid a common temptation now awaits to discard whatever proves troublesome. Let us remember the golden rule. Do unto others as you will have them do unto you.
So, a bunch of liberals and Democrats in the audience wanted to applaud when the Pope said, be nice to each other. I mean, that's what the golden rule, be nice to each other. Yeah, right on, you tell them, as though that's something special. Now, why would the left think that's something special? Because they think we're mean, folks. I'm telling you, they think we're mean and extremists. And they think the Pope's calling us out when he says that. Make no mistake, Pelosi and Reid sitting there, and darn right they think he's calling us out. On immigration, the golden rule. Anyway, if you didn't hear that, you wanted to make it through the accent. What the Pope said was, our world is facing a refugee crisis of a magnitude not seen since Second World War. This presents us with great challenges and many hard decisions. On this continent, too, thousands of persons are led to travel north in search of a better life. We need to avoid a common temptation nowadays, to discard whatever proves troublesome. Let us remember the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Does anybody have any doubt what he said there? Do you have any doubt, Mr. Stern? Are you confused at all? Wendy, how about you? You confused at all? No. Even while she's reading U.S. Weekly. What about you, Brian? You confused at all? Nobody's confused what he meant by just keep your borders open. Treat them like you'd want to be treated. Right. Treat them like full citizens of your country. You treat them the way you would want to be treated. Don't treat them the way you will be treated if you go to their country. You will not be allowed in and you will be kicked out. And the Democrats in the audience knew what he was saying. That's what they started. And he stopped them. You know, he didn't want the applause. And there were some guidelines issued to members of Congress. You can't touch as the Pope is walking down the center aisle. Don't try to shake hands. Don't do any of that. And they asked him to keep the applause way down. And for the most part, they complied. There were just some times the left couldn't help themselves. They were so excited. Here's the next soundbite. This is where the Pope got to mentioning abortion.
The Golden Rule also reminds us of our responsibility to protect and defend human life at every stage of its development. This conviction has led me from the beginning of my ministry to advocate at different levels the global abolition of the death penalty.
Does anybody have any doubt about that? Who do you think was yelling and screaming there in the background? Let me read it. You may, again, in case you were unable to understand, what the Pope said there was, the Golden Rule also reminds us of our responsibility to protect and defend human life at every stage of development. This conviction has led me, from the beginning of my ministry, to advocate at different levels for the global abolition of the death penalty. All right, look, folks, you don't need me to analyze this for you. And you know full well that only thing's going to happen if I do is I'm going to get in trouble. So you know what's being said here. You don't need me to translate. And he continued on that same thing. Well, kind of moved now into a very, very Clinton-esque thing. He wove a nice web from capitalism and praising business and pivoted
to climate change.
Business is a noble vocation directed to producing wealth and improving the world. It can be a fruitful source of prosperity from the area in which it operates, especially if it sees the creation of jobs as an essential part of its service to the common good. This common good also includes the earth. The environmental challenge we are undergoing and its human roots concern and affect us all.
Any doubt there about what was being said? How about business is a noble vocation? Wait, I'm going to get there, but first, is business a vocation? What is business? If it's not a vocation, what is it? It's a state of being. It's not a vocation. What do you want to do when you grow up? I want to go into business. Cool. What do you want to do? Nothing more than that. Want to go into business. Yeah, but what kind? Nope. I want to create jobs for the common good. How are you going to do that? I'm going to go into business. Doing what? Nothing, it's just business. It's a great vocation. It can be a fruitful source of prosperity. There are others. Well, inheritance is a source for, well, no, inheritance is a transference of wealth. Inheritance is not a fruitful source of prosperity. When you bequeath something, you're giving it to them, but you're not really sourcing anything. So business is a source of prosperity. What other sources of prosperity are there? This is a key question in the arguments between left and right. The government. If you're on the left, the government is a source of prosperity. Damn right. If you're on the left, you would. The government's a primary source of prosperity for you if you're on the left. And if you believe that business exists to kill you, if you believe that business exists to poison you, then government is a source of prosperity for you. And it's especially good, business is, if it sees the creation of jobs as an essential part of the service to the common good. Now, well, that's not, it's not what jobs are for. But see, this is where all of this is really simple as pie, but it seems like it's too technical, which warns people off or scares them off. But if you say to somebody, as I have done, no. The purpose of a business is not to create jobs and to help a community. You realize there are people, depending on how they've been educated, those are fighting words, and they think you are a lunatic. They think the only reason for business is creating jobs and cohesiveness in a community and providing health care. Now, you go ask any founder of any company why he or she did it. You will never hear, I wanted to create jobs for the community, as the number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 10 reason for doing so. That is a result of the success the business enjoys. Creating jobs is not why people start businesses. Creating jobs is not how people innovate in business. It's not how they compete. But you realize certain people listening to me, they think I am now the meanest, most unfeeling, insensitive guy they've ever heard. Based on how they think that's exactly what business is for. Is to create jobs, is to provide health care. Is to keep a community organized and functioning. I guarantee you, I've encountered it
over the course of my stellar broadcast career on previous occasions where I have said such things as I just said. You believe you've heard the angry calls. You just don't get it. You just do not understand. That's insensitive. It's mean-spirited. No, it is none of that. It's simply true. Anyway, I have to take a break here, folks. I will do it. We'll come back, and we will continue with your phone calls after this. Don't go away. Hey, folks, I just had this pointed out to me. Somebody sent me a website called Now the End Begins. Yes, I've got the Rich Lowry soundbite coming up, and it's all beneath the dignity of this program, but I'm going to play it. I've got it. I got all that Trump stuff coming up. So, yeah, just hang in there, be tough. Anyway, this website, Now the End Begins, points out. Website is Now the End Begins. Is it now? Yeah, nowtheendbegins.com. The Pope never once invoked God. Never once. Did not open or close in prayer. And the website also mentions something else that we all heard. I had registered when I heard it a number of times, but I didn't think to make a note of it. The Pope repeatedly said he wanted to enter into dialogue with the American people. Well, I'm kind of putting the brakes on here, folks, is what I'm doing. And this website also points out that at about 15 minutes in, when the Pope began to be somewhat critical of wealth, business, and so forth, the site points out that the Pope neglected to mention the wealth and riches of the Vatican itself, which is true. Anyway, here's Donata in Frederick, Maryland, as we get back to the phones. Great to have you. Hello.
Thank you, sir. I have to totally and emphatically disagree with your last caller about the Pope. If he really wanted to, first of all, have dialogue with the American people, he wouldn't be saying the Mass in Spanish. That's a slap in the face to every American Catholic I know. I've been a Catholic for 52 years, and as far as I'm concerned, if you won't say he's a leftist, I'm perfectly willing to do so. This is an abomination of my morality and my religion being basically sideswiped. If he wanted to put abortion on the ticket to bring here and talk about, he could have easily done that with what's going on in this country. If he wanted to bring morality or any of the church doctrine, we would have been happy to hear it. But he wants to talk about climate change, a science which he can't even say has been proven. Let
me ask you a question about that, though, Donata. When the Pope went into started his comments about the family, did you think that he was, without directly saying it, criticizing gay marriage?
No, not at all. In fact, I don't think he criticizes gay marriage at all. Not that I'm saying he should. I'm saying I don't think he does. I'm saying that's his take on it from what I've read. And everything that I've read, which I've tried to educate myself, I've tried to give this Pope at least the benefit of the doubt, as I do any other Pope that's been, now, you have to admit, John Paul II has been most of my life. But, and I find it very difficult that there would be another Pope any greater than him. But, you know, I just don't see where he's putting family first when he seems to talk about the Catholics having too many children.
Yeah, okay. Well, but I meant specifically today, with the remarks that he made today. If you can hang on through the break, don't go away. Yes, indeed it is. Check the email during the break. Rush, why are you spending so much time analyzing the Pope? You know, that's a fair question, and there's a definite reason for it. And it's something that you've heard me say over and over again. It's about informing and educating and explaining. And it comes under this giant umbrella of belief I have that the more people that understand and are made able to spot liberalism, and then the more people are able to associate liberalism with the problems in their lives, the political problems, the economic problems, the more people can be conditioned and educated to understand that liberalism is the problem, coupled with the ability to spot it, would be the fastest way to eradicate it. It would be really helpful if we had a Republican Party engaged in this. If you go back to Ronaldus Magnus constantly used the word liberal, and he constantly told people who they were, and he was constantly explaining what they did, how they thought, and what they did looked like. After we won the Congress in 1994, we stopped doing that. And we haven't done it except on talk radio since. And it's crucial. Going to need more than winning elections. We're going to need to change the way people think. And they're not going to change what they think if there's no counter to the way liberalism is presented in the pop culture. People have to be able, you have to teach them. My quest here has been to teach people what liberalism is and how to identify it and how to spot it. And furthermore, how to understand that liberalism is probably the root of most of the problems they face in life, including raising their kids, including educating their kids, practically every walk of life, because everything today is political. Here's another reason why. We have, as the President of the United States, one of the most radical leftists that's even ever run for office. Certainly the most radical, extreme leftist ever to be president. But if people are not told that, they're not going to believe it. Nobody wants to believe such things about the president. Nobody wants to believe such things about other powerful figures like popes and other revered leaders. If you look at what Obama has done, capitalizing on the squishiness of the GOP, in the last 7 years, Barack Obama has successfully recruited or corrupted or hijacked, however you want to describe it, John Roberts of the Supreme Court, John Boehner, Speaker of the House, Mitch McConnell, Republican leader in the Senate, and some might even say the Pope. So you're saying, well, so what, Rush? None of that's a surprise. That's right. But for people who don't follow politics, and they see people like the Pope sidling up to and having fun with and supporting Obama, and see a Supreme Court justice going out of his way to be supportive of Obama, and then the two Republican leaders, you realize how impossible it will be to portray Obama as he is? An extreme radical. You realize how difficult that is to explain to people when all these other people seem to have been recruited by him and are helping him? Now, in the case of Roberts, Boehner, and Mitchell, the explanation for it, we know that they're not simpatico on issues, and God help us if they are. It's more that they're afraid to oppose him. Pope's another matter, interchangeable, but for the domestic people here, it's not just these three, but they're the big three, John Roberts, Boehner, and Mitchell, or McConnell. If the Republican leadership and the so-called conservative Chief Justice of the Supreme Court don't appear to have any problem with Obama, do you realize how difficult it is to tell the truth about the guy? That's one of the reasons I cringe every time I see no evidence of pushback by the Republican Party on Obama policies. Just makes it harder to accomplish one of the things I have set out to do, and that is educate people about liberalism. Anyway, back to Donata. Donata, I know that you're reacting to what the Pope has said previous, and I don't have his words right in front of me here, but he today launched into a defense of the family, how important it was, how crucial the family is. He did not mention gay marriage or any of that, but he was talking about it in the traditional sense. And so I just wanted to ask you, because you are a Catholic and you're having some difficulties with his papacy, if you thought that his comments today in that joint speech were a disguised criticism of gay marriage.
I absolutely think it could be. That's very possible. I tend to think of him as a wolf in shepherd's clothing. This is just my view, and I know a lot of conservative Catholics that feel the same. I just happen to have a big enough mouth to say it. I don't know what he was talking about, to be perfectly honest with you, and I would never assume to put words in his mouth. I'm only going by the words I know have come out of his mouth and understand those.
Well, there have been plenty of those before this speech. I mean,
absolutely.
I'm not disputing you on that.
1,000% correct there.
All right. Okay. Well, look, I'm glad you held on. I appreciate it. I just wanted to run it by you and make sure you understood what the question was, because we were in a hurried state at the end of your call. We move on to Alan in Denville, New Jersey. Welcome, sir, to the EIB network. Hello.
Hi, Rush. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Thank you, sir.
I dialed the number and got right through. I thought I dialed the wrong number.
Well, I'm glad you did.
In any case, this was when you were making the comment before about why the world isn't looking to the U.S. as a model and trying to reproduce it. Rather, seems everyone wants to tear it down. I called up. I told Mr. Snerdley. In fact, I was a little more nervous speaking to him than you. But I told him that there's two things that are they're similar, but there's a big difference. And I think it points to the root of a problem we have in this culture and around the world. There's envy and there's a begrudgingness. Envy is something that it can be a positive, because I can be envious, or you can be envious of someone's possessions and use that as a positive to try to strive to achieve whatever you need to get those possessions in terms of a job, education, whatever it may be.
You could be envious of Mr. Snerdley's job, and that's why you would get so nervous talking to him when you call.
Right, right. And neighbors can be envious of what the other person has, yet still be happy for what they have.
Right.
And the relationship will endure. However, the problem we have is a begrudgingness. People see what other people have, and they don't want them to have it. And if neighbors have a begrudging feeling towards their friends' possessions, eventually it's going to eat away and destroy the relationship, and they're going to look at ways to try to take away what their friends have.
There's no question that happens in neighborhoods. I mean, that happens among friends. I mean, that's just, you're right. That's a natural human emotion. That's called jealousy. That's called covetousness. I mean, people who covet what somebody else has.
Right, and that's why I think the problem is people are so busy worrying what other people have and looking for ways of taking it away from them, they don't appreciate the things they have. And we really need, if people can really work on not looking to take away what everyone else has, look at it as a positive. I mean, I'd much rather be in a country where the median income was maybe $100,000, because it tells me, oh, okay, I have the chance of getting that median income, rather than living in a country where everyone's, no one has anything, so I can't be jealous of someone's fancy cars.
Exactly.
But everyone's making...
But let me refocus the question, because I was not speaking per se, and I'm glad you called to enable me to make this clarification. When I asked the question in the first hour, when others around the world look at the U.S., why don't they seek to emulate it and spread that specialness all over the world, rather than everybody try to get here? You're right, there's someone to tear it down, but the answer to the question, who wants to tear it down, I'm asking about other leaders, powerful people who have the ability to lead movements that would emulate the United States around the world, or Americans who would try to proselytize about the American way of life. We've had those. And they've been called renegades and conquerors and imperialists and so forth. But the real reason is that most of the world's leaders are tyrants. That's another reason that we are special, and why we are so hell-bent, opposed, and frightened of tyrants. We don't want dictators, which is what most people live under. Most people were born to tyranny and bondage and dictatorship, and most to this day are still subject to it in one way or another, or in many ways. Those people, the tyrants and the dictators, and many others who seek to run and rule countries, do not want a free people. You think Fidel Castro wants his people to be free? Think Raul Castro wants his people to be free? Do you think Stalin, old Joe, wanted his people to be free? Or Lenin? Do you think Hitler wanted his people to be free? How about the Chaicoms? You really think they want their people to be free? No, they want them to be controlled. The leaders in these tyrannies and dictatorships do very well economically. They are literal thieves. They plunder and steal the national wealth of the countries they lead, a la the Castros, a la the Soviet leaders. Look at the oligarchs even today there, Putin and his buddies. The thing that stands in the way of that is a free people and a runaway economy, a growing economy with prosperity for all. That's, again, what explains, illustrates, defines the specialness or uniqueness of the United States. And it really is a rarity. My question was, for all of these leaders that I'm talking about, these tyrants and dictators, if you listen to them, what are the names of their countries? The People's Republic of whatever. The people don't have a say in anything in these countries. The leaders who claim to be for the little guy, who claim to care about the oppressed, who claim they're going to get even with the rich, claim they're going to get even with those who have their jackbooted thugs on the necks of the little guy, don't mean it. If they did, they would be trying to emulate the United States, and they would attempt to seek the stature and credit one would attain from founding, establishing, leading such a nation, such a prosperous nation. But that's not who these people are. They're dictators. They're tyrants. They rule by the use of force and intimidation and imprisonment. And that is the story for most of the people in the world. And it's even, in light of that fact, it infuriates me even more when I have to listen to people both in this country and visitors to this country blame us for the problems in the world. And it really steams me. It really ticks me off when they start going down this road of climate change and how we're destroying the world. Now, we are destroying the planet. I can't tell you, I get so insulted, I get so angry when I hear this. Anyway, I appreciate the call, Alan, I really do. And I've got another brief break here, folks, so we'll be back before you know it. Don't go away. Yes, as promised, in the next hour, we are going to get into the domestic politics presidential race and stuff, including the desired anatomical procedure Rich Lowry wishes would perform on Trump, or rather, Carly Fiorina already has performed on Trump, as uttered live on Megyn Kelly's show on Fox last night. Anyway, we'll get to all that. Here's Steve in Birmingham, Alabama. Welcome, sir. Appreciate your patience, too. Hello.
Hi, Rush. I just wanted to build on your excellent point from the first hour. The left does often talk about why and how we became wealthy. I mean, not good or special, because we don't think about it in those terms, but wealthy. It was at the expense of the rest of the world, on the backs of the world's poor, by imperialism and exploiting the world's resources.
Yep.
And therefore, it needs to be shared and returned.
We got to give it back. We got to be cut down inside. No, he's exactly right. But, of course, that's a lie. That's absolute gunk and BS, and anybody with any common sense could have it explained to them. How did the U.S. become special?
Oh,
this was special. And it just worked out that way. But the caller had a point out there, folks, and it is that the left thinks that this country became special, that it isn't special. See, that's the thing. It isn't special. This country's fraudulent. This country is founded on injustice, ill-gotten gains, the immorality of discrimination. This is what they really believe, and people around the world do. So when you talk about emulating the country's greatness, what made it special? But see, they're the ones that contradict. How about all these people telling us how wonderful and great America is? We should let these immigrants in. They're trying to improve their lives. Who are we to tell them they can't come here? Wait a minute, what's so special about this place? I thought, founded in immorality, all these other rotten things. So they contradict themselves left and right on all this. But the way they'll catch up, yes, we must let the immigrants in because the country was theirs originally. Until we came along and took it from them. It wasn't ours. We just came in and overpowered them. And they were at one with nature. They were innocent. They were naive. They had no idea. They were minding their own business. They had their buffalo, and they had the fish, and they had the streams, and they had the bears, and everything was fine. And then here we came with Custer and the boys, and we wiped them out. And it was unfair. And we did the same thing in Mexico. Why do you think they invented the piñatas to get back at us? So, it's our fault. And all of this cutting America down to size is the price we must pay for all of the injustice we have perpetrated since our founding. That's how they go. Okay, we will broom a papal address to the joint session of Congress. We've pretty much blanketed that. And we'll move on to the American presidential race, which has its own level of color, shall we say, occurring out there. Sit tight, my friends. One big hour remains.